Hey guys, if you could just take a quick look at my subscriber count, you can see we're really close to my goal of 21 million. Only 20.6 million subscribers away, so if you could just hit that like button and help with this very reasonable sub goal, and also don't forget to subscribe, like you might forget about these 5 Sword and Shield Pokemon, that'd be great. Thanks. Can always count on you. While I know Pokemon fans absolutely do not forget a single Pokemon, some of us do happen to forget a few Pokemon that don't stand out as superstars in the decks. But not me, of course. Or that one guy already writing in the comments about the one in the thumbnail right now. I see you. These are 5 Pokemon that are in between my top 10 most popular, and soon to be released top 10 most hated, that are somewhat glossed over in the Sword and Shield native decks, and could be forgotten over time when new generations come in. And while I definitely did not forget them, yet, these 5 Pokemon do seem to be the ones that are most likely to be forgotten as time passes. And while they're not necessarily hated, they do happen to hide in the back and jump out to scare you after years of not realizing they were hiding this whole time. So really it's the top 5 most in the middle Pokemon. Number 5, Galarian Stunfisk. With the flumpy fish being fisked into another region and receiving a full-on do-over to start a new life as a now Europe member of the UK, it does end up lacking a little bit of charm that the original Stunfisk brought into its debut in the 5th generation. And by charm, I mean it being so beyond the typical impression new Pokemon bring, and creates the immediate idea of thinking what could have possessed them to make this, and at the very least would be remembered for decades on end, as more of a question to why it was made rather than being remembered as a Pokemon. Original Stunfisk definitely grew on people to be remembered for its outlandish inclusion, and did get its own niche following for that reason. A new form, however, seems like it would get lost behind the original as really just a repeat. It might still maintain some of those underground Stunfisk followers, but mostly end up turning into one of those Pokemon trivia questions asking if you knew Stunfisk had dual citizenship. Like when you go back to your staple flavor of potato chips after experimenting with a new flavor of crisps. They did upgrade its design. Well, maybe not upgrade, more so just flat horizontal line grade its design while changing its typing to make it a ground steel metal bear trap with its baiting Pokeball lips. And that's cool to see it get something and not just leave our 5th gen fish in the dusk after being left alone as this only for memes Pokemon. But the new form is really just the same idea presented with different colors. The small changes don't really outdo what original Stunfisk already did, and sort of end up as a surprise one-time joke for the first time you see the Galar form, that may just end up left alone in the forest until you step on it after years of forgetting it was there, or you'll just wonder what latched onto your foot. Number 4, Pinkerton. Every new generation gets these single non-evolving Pokemon that are not the most notable. Some definitely are, where they're filled with some form of reasoning or personality, however there's always a few small fries that get left off, but at least get the hope that they'll be moved over into a new generation with some added bonuses given to them. Pinkerton falls more into being forgettable for its okayish design, where it's not extremely bad to be remembered for that, but also doesn't stand out as a cool on its own thing like Phalanx. I think a little more could have been done with Pinkerton. Almost seems primed up to be a typical Feebas or Magikarp starting Pokemon before it turns into some terrifyingly destructive Pokemon, but just ends up as a real in-the-middle-of-the-pack round bubble that's just added in. It does at least follow the series of random round Pokemon that pop up and don't do too much like Pyukumuku, so really its only chance to be remembered is if they continue this in every new generation and have a non-evolving Spike Ball species to complete your collection like they're their own category of Pikachu clones. And then you get them all together and they combine to a brand new Pokemon. That's how you save this species. Number 3, Cursula. You know how rich people just grab really ugly things and put them all over the place and say it's feng shui? It's not very feng shui. They put a dead plant in the middle of the room, it's unappreciated artistic vision. I put 2 ferns, one on each side of my couch, we sit in between them, and all of a sudden the sarcastic comments are flowing in. Cursula's more of an acquired taste. Once the nostalgia dies off, like the coral reefs, Cursula just ends up as a bit of a creepy evolution for Corsola. I mean, yeah, that's the point, but the branching regional evolution feels a bit different. It's great these Pokemon do end up evolving in some way at the very least, but seeing it be exclusive to a region with their original forms being left off is a bit unfortunate to not have them also evolve. I think that alone gives it a bit of a forgettable feeling, and while there are some new memorable ones, Cursula lacks a bit of that punch where it gets overshadowed by its Galarian Corsola predecessor as its Eviolite hookup. I can't even search for Cursula without Google trying to correct me to Corsola, and if Google can't remember it after months, then that's just a source I have to cite. At the very least, it's kind of amusing to see Galarian Corsola evolve into this ghostly tree with branches shooting out of it as it turns into a potted plant. However, I think on its own, Corsola would be the most neutral in the middle of the pack and forgettable out of all 6 new Pokédex entry Galaevolutions. Number 2. Gossifleur. There is a lot of grass. In general, not just in Galar. Even the developers had to cut some in Generation 5 because there was just too much grass everywhere. Gossifleur does have a nice elegant design, a floral bouquet that if you just gave it some legs and had it walk down a runway, it would look like a typical over-the-top evening gown. There are just a lot of plant designs, and a bundle of grass to remember that I just don't see Gossifleur flourishing in the memories of everyone. I'm sure there are some Gossif fans out there, but it's looking grim. Having just a regular grass plant design might not age as well as others. It's pretty, but what have you got to compete with? Carnivine, Cherrim, Lilligant, and you remember Steenie, or its evolution? That other grass type? With so many glossed over grass types, Gossifleur just seems like it would be thrown into that bunch. It does have a French name, which is nice because we're in Europe in this English area, which is actually close to France, as within the same region S location, and travel distance to the UK. So there is some elegance to it. But with Eldegoss not being the most standoutish Pokemon either, I feel its pre-evolution may lack a little bit of that needed growth to stay memorable, and how many have been already made in prior ones. Number 1. Galarian Farfetch'd. As a Pokemon I even forgot to add into the worst shiny list, because I forgot it existed, it really is one of the least standout Pokemon in all of Galar. So really if we're just trying to use anyone as an example, I hear him living proof. Okay, it's not enough of a reason, but Pokemon forms aren't always the most memorable on their own, and while Farfetch has been needing something for a long time, Galarian Farfetch just ends up as one of, if not the most unchanged form versions. It's slightly darker, maybe a bit bulkier, while all the change was given onto its leak to be thicker and held in a different way. Every week or so, however, there's just this day where I think, oh, regular Kanto Farfetch evolved straight into Surfetch'd. And really they could have done just that. I mean, the two Farfetch don't look overly different from one another, but I mean the fighting type overhaul and added in anger problems do at least change up the regular to regional versions in a slight way. However, Lil and Rattata got a mustache. Maybe not the best change, but what about some Galar abs for this angry bird? All in all, the swap over from Kanto Farfetch to Galar Farfetch, to even shiny Galar Farfetch, is not really that much of a memorable change, and relies on Surfetch to try and carry the whole Galarian line itself, as its pre-evolution may end up as the forgotten puzzle piece, and having regular Farfetch turn into Fargettable.